All right, this is a quick little demonstration of full self-drive from Tesla. I'm just leaving work. My Tesla knows I'm probably going home, so it's already pre-registered the navigation. So I'm going to try and start it from the parking lot, which can be a little treacherous because it doesn't always know how to get out of a parking lot. But let's try it. Here we go. Look, Ma, I'm driving. Now, it's actually pretty good about speed bumps, but this particular speed bump, it sometimes doesn't always see. Let's see. I guess it did okay. I would have liked to go slower. Kind of strange that it wants to drive all the way through the parking lot rather than, see here it slows down for this one really nicely. That's much better. Okay, so the navigation seems like it's telling it to leave the parking lot and then go back into the parking lot, which would be a really strange choice. So let's see if it ignores the nav. Oh, the nav updated. Okay. So here we go. It brings up my little side camera anytime the turn signal goes on. I'm not touching the pedals or the wheel. I haven't touched anything since I got in the car, except just the button to tell it to go home. Here you can have the nav up, or you can sort of expand the image of what it perceives of the world around it. You can move your extra window to different spots, which is kind of nice. So the user interface is really, really great. I thought I was going to miss Apple CarPlay, and in fact I was a little bummed that it didn't have it. And they just announced that they're actually going to bring it to Tesla, but honestly I'm not even sure I would use it at this point. I really don't feel like I need it. I can Bluetooth any music I want to listen to, or I can just use my Apple Music right here inside the car. It's linked to my account, so it has all my stuff there. My podcast app, all of it's already built in. But even if I do want to use my phone, I can it just auto connects with Bluetooth, so I still get to hear it. And the nav is so good in the Tesla, there's really no need to use the Apple product. And there's pretty good integration. If I bring up an Apple map in my phone, because it is connected to my contacts a little bit better, I can send it to the Tesla really easily. You just use the little share button and pick Tesla, and then boom, it pops up in my nav. Right now I've got it on Mad Max mode. It's going 45 and a 40, but that means it's more likely to change lanes more aggressively and just overall be a little bit more aggressive. I haven't noticed a huge amount of difference between hurry mode and Mad Max mode. There's also standard, chill, and sloth. Sloth means it won't speed at all. So we just entered a 30-mile-per-hour zone. It's interesting, it doesn't seem to really pay as much attention to the speed limits as you would expect. It's almost like it drives the speed that it sees most cars driving in any particular road. So if most cars speed a lot on a particular road, the Tesla will speed, and then in other places when people tend to drive the speed limit a little bit more, the Tesla tends to match that. Yeah. But if you're in chill or sloth, it will adhere to the speed limits much more strictly. But I would say in Mad Max and hurry mode, it tends to just drive the way a normal driver would drive. And maybe Mad Max pushes it towards the limit a little bit more. Sometimes it'll go over 10 miles an hour above the speed limit, and if that happens, this is a really interesting curvy little intersection. It handles it just fine. Puts on the turn signal and then kind of hesitates to get over, but eventually it does it. It's pretty good about not stopping in the middle of an intersection. This is kind of a congested area, but really it's got no problems. No issues so far. It will get on to me if I don't look at the road. It watches my eyes, so it actually knows where I'm looking. It'll let me look at the screen for a few seconds before chiming at me. It seems to be a little bit more sensitive to me looking at my phone. If I try to text message, it will, you can see it's actually okay. It was getting on to me there. I thought I was staring at the phone. I'm just kind of holding it up at head level. If it feels like it can't watch your eyes very well, it'll ask you to touch the steering wheel. But otherwise, it won't make you touch the steering wheel. Lots of really nice lane changes there. Yeah, it doesn't usually get on to me quite this much, but like I said, it's pretty sensitive to you looking at your phone. It only takes a few seconds of it. If it thinks you're staring at your phone screen, it will give you a warning, and then if you ignore the warning, it'll give you a stronger warning, and then if you ignore that warning, it will shut off. And not only does it tell you to take over and turns off self-drive, but you get a strike. And then if you get, I don't know how many strikes. After so many strikes, you get grounded from FSD for a week. So there you go. So far, I've only ever gotten one strike, but it's because I was sort of at a stoplight, and when you're at a stoplight, it doesn't enforce any of the rules for keeping your eyes on the road. So you can check your messages and things. You can check your messages, you can send a text message, whatever, and it's going to be fine with it. But on this particular instance, for some reason, it was trying to enforce the rules of paying attention while I was sitting stopped at a stoplight. So anyways, I got a strike, and then a few days later it removed the strike from my record. So there you go. So we're a few miles into the trip here, with a pretty normal amount of traffic for in the afternoon. And I have not had to touch the steering wheel or the pedals yet, except just to wiggle it because it wants me to touch the steering wheel because I'm holding my phone in my hand. Comes to a nice smooth stop. One of the things that prevented people from using FSD was not so much that it was unsafe, but that it was just not driving like a human would drive and being annoying to the drivers around you. And so just out of like sheer embarrassment, people would turn it off. But I would say at this point, the vast majority of the time that I'm in full self-drive, I don't think anybody around me would have any idea that the car is behaving in any way unusual. It responds really quickly. You know, if the light turns green, it just goes. It stays with the flow of traffic. It doesn't cut people off. It actually lets people in if they're trying to merge or get in. It doesn't just block their way. The other day, I was actually sitting in the center lane, and when a car was trying to squeeze next to me to get into the left turn lane, which was empty, but there just wasn't quite enough room because of a center median curb. Well, the Tesla sort of noticed the car trying to get past us, and not only did it pull forward, it actually inched over to the right a little bit just to make space for the guy. So I was like, wow, you know, that's something a lot of human drivers don't seem to really pick up on, and yet, you know, here's Tesla making room for the guy. So I thought that was really good. One of my favorite times to use it is in this kind of stop and go traffic. It's looking at all directions at all times. So it's kind of awareness, a lot of times exceeds my own, I would say. And the stop and go nature of things. So here we've got a flashing yellow light. I would just take this turn. Let's see if it does. Yep, takes it, no problem. And in those situations, it won't pull out into the intersection until it sees that it has an opportunity to go, because it doesn't want to get stuck there, which I think is pretty good policy. This car is going to turn in front of us. Didn't even so much as react by the car. The car was comfortable with that. If anything, the car tends to overreact to situations. If it can't anticipate what a car is about to do, or if it thinks it's trying to get in front of us or pull out or something, it might kind of jam the brakes a little bit. If it's trying to turn lanes and somebody's coming up behind us, it might kind of hesitate. So if anything, I would say it's a little bit conservative and a little bit more likely to overreact to a situation than to underreact. I've really never had it underreact. See, that car was pulling forward needlessly while we were still approaching. You can't see it, but I could feel the car just react a little bit to that, but probably about as much as I would have. Honestly, it didn't overreact. Here it gets into the center lane just to be behind one car instead of two. So total human move there, very fluidly and confidently. But yeah, I would have to say overall, it's extremely impressive. I'm about 2 miles from home. We'll get to see how it handles the gate. The gate's probably open, but the new version that just came out handles gates pretty well, actually. You can see its view of the world down there on the monitor. It can distinguish different types of vehicles, pedestrians, animals, people on bikes, everything. It's kind of nice to be able to see what it sees. And that view of the car is actually really helpful whenever you're driving and you're trying to park and figure out just how far away you are from another car. It kind of has a heat map. It starts to turn orange and red as you get close to something and sort of ding. Yeah, I was just about to say I would get in the right lane, but even before I could get the words out, it did it. You know, I don't want to be stuck behind a car turning left, and the right lane's moving a little bit quicker. So, and then back in the left lane, being a little bit aggressive, but again, you know, it's going 51 and a 45, and I do have it in Mad Max mode. So, you know, this is quite comfortable for me. This is very much how I would probably be driving in this exact situation. And in fact, I would go 54 in a 45 because I don't want to exceed 9 miles an hour over the speed limit. And so here it is, just almost perfectly matching what I would do. There's a pedestrian on the side of the road. No reaction, as expected. We're gonna turn right at this stoplight. So it, sometimes it'll sort of get into the left lane at a point in time where you're thinking, why would you do that? There, yep, it kind of hit the brakes a little bit as that car began to roll out. Which that car should not have begun to roll out, and a human driver could have been a little skittish there. Although, if I was going to be a little bit, you know, pedantic, I would say the Tesla probably shouldn't have put on the turn signal before passing that opening into the gas station, because it could imply that you're turning into the gas station rather than at the intersection. Now, if I was a driver pulling out of the gas station near an intersection, I wouldn't just assume that the car is pulling in, especially if it's not slowing down, and then pull out in front of them. So, you know, I think that's a kind of an edge case where, oh, this is interesting. We've got emergency vehicles here. Was not expecting that. Now we're having to get diverted into a parking lot as a go around. This is really surprising. Let's see how the car handles this. It decides to go. Wow. So now we're driving through a parking lot. We're following these cars. Ha! How perfect was that? How do you plan on that kind of thing? My goodness. I thought I was going to have to intervene, but nope. Perfectly handles that. Goes nice and slowly through there. Doesn't get stuck, doesn't get confused. And now we're back on track. Detour successfully navigated. It navigated through a parking lot to get around a road obstruction, just like a person would do, but just the sort of thing I would expect to confuse the shit out of a computer system. So here we go, we're pulling into my neighborhood. The gate is open, so we won't get to see that. We've got a nice Cybertruck about to pass us here. Hello, fellow Tesla. That Mercedes like to edge into our lane here, but that's okay. And then, of course, time to go, and the car perfectly times it. No hesitation. Into the neighborhood. And if we're lucky, it might even back me into my garage. That's what it did yesterday. See if I can time the garage door opening. Sometimes it doesn't pull far enough into the driveway. Here we go. Into the driveway. Let's see how we're doing here. Pulling forward. And parked. Okay. No backing in today. But there you go. Got all the way home and never touched the wheel or the brakes or anything. Just hit that button and then arrived at my destination. Go Tesla.